NFL Brekkie friends, I'm going to take you back to, I don't know, 6 hours ago, maybe not quite that long. I texted my good friend Laurie Horesh, Merry Christmas. And that's because that's what today is for the NFL offseason. There are a short list of days on the NFL calendar more exciting than today. This is your NFL Brekkie Show, live draft reaction. Laws, I think it's to his left. He's got a screen. He's about 10 seconds ahead of me. I'm going to keep peeking down here because I got my device. Shouts to the ESPN app to watch this draft. Laz, I don't even know where you want to start. You know what I'll say? We're all watching this together. Normally we have like a kind of a tidy rundown. We know what we're going to chat about, and we have topics and things. This is two friends this is our 6th year doing the draft together. And normally at this point, we're just frantically texting each other, reacting to what our teams did, whether we're
I'm frantically texting right now.
And Laz, I mean, that's what we're doing here, right? We're what? Pick 22 of round 1, the Chargers on the clock, and we're just going to ride this out.
We are, and the Shedeur slide is on. The Shedeur slide is on. The Pittsburgh Steelers made a very Pittsburgh pick, taking Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. Love him. Yeah. Big love.
Only though the 4th D tackle they've ever taken in the first round.
Yeah, very Steelers in the style of player, but perhaps not the asset. The asset use, but I think, look, it's also feeling like a very Steelers-y quarterback room right now as well. Given that they make the decision not to go with Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck, or hey, maybe you're a Jalen Milroe guy. One pick. So yeah, they make the move to go Derek Harmon. So the Shedeur slide is on, but this day started with a bang, like a bang. Number 2 overall.
Plus, yeah, how does that happen? Like, there was so much consensus. I did ESPN Bet Live today, and I think the market for Travis Hunter to go 2 overall, which he did, was $1.02. And it was like the market for the top 4 picks, it was not even worth addressing because it was, our reporters do a fantastic job. We knew the order. We didn't know the order. This is a Quentin Tarantino movie. A first scene where you're just, what happened? And now we're in. It took 8 minutes for this draft to, I don't want to say go off the rails because just the first down was pretty tidy. Jacksonville, Cleveland switch spots if you missed it. Jacksonville jumps up. They take the 2-way star, Travis Hunter, a team in Jacksonville with need at receiver, need at corner, tick both boxes more so than does Cleveland. Cleveland goes, bolsters their defensive line, gets Mason Graham out of Michigan. Terrific pick. But that trade, we were talking projected trades, maybe Chicago goes up to 5, swaps with Jacksonville. Chicago goes up and gets Ashton Genty at 5. I didn't see a single mock that had Jags, Browns switch spots, Jags giving up their first-round pick next year to do so.
Absolutely. And the Browns effectively either deferring their quarterback decision perhaps till round 2 or till next year because they're asset loaded because one of the big picks, they pick up an early second-round pick as part of the trade going back.
I don't think it's round 2. I think it's going to be 2 early second-round picks and more draft capital in the backside. Yeah, I think they know who they like in the back end of round 1. I think they're going to make up and get somebody.
They could be moving up any second now. We've just had a pick come off the board, by the way, the LA Chargers with Omarion Hampton, someone who was mocked to both of our teams, the Denver Broncos and the Cowboys, maybe not the last couple of weeks, but earlier in the draft season processes. He picked up Omarion Hampton to the Chargers. That makes a lot of sense when we're talking about Jim Harbaugh football. Look, I loved the J.K. Dobbins renaissance last year. Clearly, they're looking to add a little more youth, a little more juice. For me, I've heard DeMarco Murray compared to 2 running backs in this class, Omarion Hampton and Caleb Johnson, who's still on the board out of Iowa State. Iowa. He plays football in Iowa, therefore he has a certain style. I like the DeMarco Murray comparison here, and I think young DeMarco Murray, who had a bit more burst, a bit more long speed, because Hampton does have that. He can take it to the house. He's not, I wouldn't say he's not going to give you these flurry of, let's call them stanky leg-esque moves where he's just sinking with wild knee flexion and, breaking ankles. He does have shiftiness. He can make you miss, but it's not in that kind of overly flare way that we've seen some. It's not a joystick player, but he has shiftiness. He has explosion. You give that man a lane, you give that man half a lane, and he's got the power, straight line speed, contact balance So yeah, he reminds me a bit of a young DeMarco Murray in his prime before the injuries kind of took some of the fast twitch. There's obviously some toughness, the physicality he plays with. But look, back to what we're talking about. Look, you could be very
before we get off the point of the Chargers.
Yeah,
Matthew Golden's still on the board.
Yeah, second round player for me. Not surprised.
I know he's a second round player for you. For me, he's a first round player. 4.29 is an impressive number, and he plays for me 4.29. But it's more the Chargers' big flashing lights need in this draft is pass catcher. Ladd McConkey accounted for 29% of their receiving yards. They have Dobbins. They picked up Najee Harris in the offseason. You better believe Omarion Hampton is a 7 to 8 year impact player.
Okay, we've got Any Given Sunday Australia podcast. Packers on the clock. Here we go, Loz. That's from the Any Given Sunday, guys. I was on their show the other night. Packers fan in there with T-Mac, who wanted T-Mac to make his way to
We've got another take in the chat that I would love to address.
Oh, from KL Play. I really thought Denver would take him, but little surprise Harbaugh grabbed him.
Yeah. Well, and here's what I will say. My producer on NFL Blitz, a guy named Nate, he's actually he barracks for the Packers, so he's very locked into that at the moment. He and I were texting about, hey, who do your Broncos want and this and that. I saw Jahdae Barron, and I was just praying. I didn't think he'd get past Tampa, but I was praying he'd get past Tampa. If he didn't, I said Matthew Golden, wide receiver, or Omarion Hampton. Denver's done a great job this offseason. And you know I'm normally very critical of my Broncos. I think they've done a fantastic job ticking boxes this offseason. And they were in a position where whoever they take would have been great. I love the Jahdae Barron pick more than all of them because throw it anywhere. You got Patrick Surtain, Defensive Player of the Year on one side. Riley Moss, who now becomes a very strong CB3. Jahdae Barron can line up as a nickel. He's feisty, 5'11". He's tough. He's heady. He's a defensive captain. I love the pick. And so I agree. It wouldn't have surprised me if Denver took him, but I don't hate that they didn't.
Like him and Talanoa Hufanga running around the middle of the field together. Like that's
raising hell.
That's a bit of fun.
And then that's the back end of the defense. You got a team that set a franchise record for sacks.
I think
we know what they can do. Nick Benito just flying at quarterbacks. It's fantastic.
I think Barron was a top 10 player in this draft. I thought he'd be the first DB picked after Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter notably announced as wide receiver, defensive back. Wide receiver did come first. I don't know what that means, but I don't know if it means nothing.
Who's his head coach? Offensive mind or defensive mind? Liam Cohen.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're gonna reset the table in a bit. We're reacting live to a lot of fun that's happening right now. I will say Jahdae Barron. I would have been happy with Jahdae Barron at 12 to the Cowboys. I'm fine. We'll get to the Cowboys in a bit. I'm solid with their pick. I think there's a chance this could be like
when we have one of those trades where the clock goes up to like 12 minutes and we need Laws to filibuster.
Yeah,
and we'll get into about his thoughts about a guard at 12. We'll let it go.
Yes. All right. So let's reset the table. So we do know that Cam Ward went first overall. No surprises there. That's where the surprises. That's where the no surprises ended, and the surprises start with a big trade. Big trade. We will see what the Cleveland Browns are doing. They do have those assets at the back end of, at the top of round 2 to possibly move up into the late first round over the next hour or so. We're going to be with you through the end of the first round. Do they have a guy that they like, or are they deferring and holding assets? They have 2 first-round picks now in 2026. Could they be looking at the 2026 QB class potentially headlined if he comes out early by someone named Arch Manning? So interesting to watch what Cleveland do there. Mason Graham was fine for me. I actually had, this is going to sound crazy, and you can clip this, and Phil, you might be running this back to me in a couple of years saying you're nuts. I had him as my 4th defensive tackle. I had Derek Harmon ahead of him. I had Big Man Grant, his teammate at Michigan, ahead of him. And I also had Walter Nolan, who came off the board. Walter Nolan went pick
18
number.
No.
Walter Nolan went to 17? Not the Cincinnati Bengals. Who picked before the Cincinnati Bengals? We're doing this off the top of
Cardinals.
My head. The Cardinals. He did. Bit of interior 3-tech pressure there. That's the mold he fits there. So I didn't love the Mason Graham. I might prefer the trade that they got than the actual pick they made at 5.
I think look no further than the Super Bowl to say your O-line and D-line can't be good enough. If you have an outstanding O-line, D-line, you can cover a lot of errors, win a lot of games. Yeah. And that's not a knock on the Philadelphia Eagles, but we see a lot of talented teams with O-line, D-line problems fall short because they can't rush the passer, they can't protect. With Myles Garrett out wide, the Browns, Malik Collins they brought in on their defensive interior. You get for some, the top interior defensive linemen available. And in today's NFL, we're seeing more and more value of that interior defensive line. That's an identity pick for me. Their big glaring need is quarterback. I do think that trade with Jacksonville, the assets built up, that does scream that the Browns are going to come in back into the first round. And who do you fancy? Is it Jackson Dart? Is it Shedeur? They have said a lot of good things about Shedeur Sanders in this pre-draft process, despite the slide that's going on. They love how he processes at the line of scrimmage. Jeremy Fowler says they've called it his computer mind, his ability to have anticipatory throws. They like that. So if Shedeur's here, I mean, we're getting close to the window because you think the Rams might be interested at 26 if they think he's the quarterback of the future?
Could be.
We're in range for the Browns to trade up.
Okay, let's just reset the table because there's a bit going on here right now. I'm going to get to some fan questions. Guys, if you see me looking this way during the draft, I've got an eye on the draft screen.
Yeah, and if you see me looking here, I got an eye on the draft. If you see me looking here,
I've got the eye on the comment section. I've got the eye on the comment section down here. I'm going to the comment section is just a sec. We have the picks running along the bottom there. If you've missed anything, we have the picks up to date running along the bottom. Now, here's the news that's coming in as we are going. Apparently, this is per Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network. At number 23, Packers are getting trade calls, similar to the Chargers at 22. Michigan, from Adam Schefter, ESPN's Adam Schefter, Michigan cornerback Will Johnson has a knee issue that has concerned some NFL teams and explains why he still has not been selected. And then this one from Josina Anderson, I'm told the Giants are trying with an asterisk to get back into the first round per league sources. So there's a lot going on out there.
That lines up. Sal Palantonio came on the Blitz yesterday. He said he talked to Joe Shane. He was outside of Giants HQ. He said 3 things he took away from that conversation. One was that they felt they were in prime position at 3 to either take a blue chip prospect or trade back. They took the blue chipper. They got Abdul Carter. Big Blue Wrecking Crew is back with the D-line they're building there.
It certainly is.
Second thing Sal said was there's no mandate from the owner to take a quarterback. Third was they're positioned at the beginning of the second round to trade back into the first, which is what we're hearing from Josina.
Okay, and now we've got the Packers up there on stage. The pick is in. We're going to get to some fan questions from some audience participation in a sec, because that's what this show is about. This is a place. It is a public holiday in Australia. It is Anzac Day.
You guys are lucky.
A day of it's a day of remembrance and a day of respect. Well, we have people clearly at home, a day off, and we have people at home that are taking the time to enjoy the draft, sit down and take in the football that they love. They're joined here for us, so it is a place to come and enjoy, share your thoughts, share your takes, share your emotions, reactions. So we've got the Packers coming up. We're going to get to some of these questions, but Brad, it's a great day for drafting. It certainly is.
And Brad's Panthers. Some surprise at the pick. Ted McMillan.
Love it. I had Ted McMillan going in the top 10. Love it. I think it makes so much sense. They need an extra addition alpha pick there at the wide receiver room, and I think Ted McMillan fits that beautifully. I think there was galaxy braining going on with Ted McMillan and some of the criticism saying he created no separation. This guy was big and smooth. No, he wasn't. I don't think he was as violent and snappy a player at his size as someone like a Mike Evans or a Drake London. But there's a smoothness and there's a strength, a catch point, wingspan, the ridiculous hands, the skill set that he brought. So I liked it. We're still waiting on this Packers pick to come in. I'll throw another one out there. We do have a Booker-related comment, but I'm going to get that in a bit. KO player, Manning definitely ain't coming out next year. Calling that now. Okay.
I think it completely depends who has the number 1 pick. He doesn't need to with NIL, and obviously he comes from money. He's fine.
Correct. Yeah, there's certainly not an NIL. And then I think, and we have the Green Bay Packers. There he goes, Matthew Golden, Phil. Yeah. Matthew Golden out of the University of Texas.
Unbecoming from the Packers to take a quarterback in round 1.
And that is what we are getting in here. Golden, wowee. We're getting...
last couple numbers for you as you look through the comments. 25 drops by wide receivers last year, an 8% drop rate. If it sounds bad, it is. Both of those figures were the worst in the NFL. They add a guy who can stretch the field vertically like Christian Watson does, except Watson has chronic hamstring issues. So now you have 2 deep threats in Green Bay at the wide receiver position.
We have
Mecole Hardman too. So all sorts of speed and versatility outside.
We have KO player taking skill position player. The Packers, is this real life? Similar from Brad Bolt, from the shocking pick, because I didn't think it's the day where the Packers would do this in round 1, taking a wide receiver. So plenty of
Listen, man, you get them a home draft, and they got to do something to get the people going.
Little bucking of history and bucking of trends there. But look, Golden, for me, you said you see the 429, you see the 429 speed out there on the field. I see maybe 429 speed if it was a 40-yard, if it was a 38-yard 40 that was timed, maybe. So I don't quite see that speed, but I do think this guy creates instant windows. That early quickness is something you cannot deny. What was his split in the 10-yard, like 149 or something? So that is not a surprise.
It was absurd.
Your audio fill is just bumping a bit, I think, with the lean down. This is all live, guys. This is all live. This is how we roll when the picks are flying.
Well, again, and I'll show you. I have this is my team note sheet for the Cardinals. And then on the back, I have all the transactions and things. And so I have to update this live, or we have 257 picks in the offseason. I will fall behind.
All right, Matthew.
And how great is it for those in Lambeau, the partisan support? What a turnout, by the way. I don't know if you've seen some of these crowd shots. It looks
unbelievable. They turned people away. That's what we started getting. That's what we started seeing from insiders that were saying they got sent out notice.
Lambeau Field is in a neighborhood. I cannot articulate. It's such a weird setting because so many of these stadiums, it's in a downtown area, or even like if it's away from a downtown area, it's kind of like in this huge complex, like the Meadowlands, for example, MetLife Stadium. Green Bay, you are driving like stop signs, 30 kilometers an hour, and then you turn left and there's the most historic stadium in the sport. So that's the grounds they're on, is in the neighborhood. People getting turned away, Midwest nice, they're just getting invited to these tailgates. It is a 500,000 person party in the smallest market in American sport, not just the NFL, smallest market in American sport. It's fantastic.
It's a beautiful thing. I've also got some updates here. Kieran Shaker, who is a longtime friend of the show and has sent in some phenomenal questions over there, just with an update. I'm KL Player, by the way. Some of the questions and comments we've had come in. Just wanted to let you know it's a high school YouTube name. So wait,
unfortunate.
The player moniker since way back.
Mine I can't say on a Disney-owned and operated channel.
My first email address was forcibly changed once my parents found out what it was. So something we all share in our history. But look, we're having a lot of fun here. We still somehow have 9 picks to go in the first round. Yeah. Let's do a little more table setting. If you did miss any picks so far, we're 23 through. Next on the clock are the Vikings. That'll be followed by the Texans, the Rams at 26. 27 is the Ravens, then the Lions, the Commanders, the Bills. 31 is the Chiefs, and 32, obviously, the Super Bowl champion.
Commanders are going to pick up the phone.
Philadelphia Eagles. Off the top, Cam Ward went 1 to the Titans. Jaguars moved up to take Travis Hunter, wide receiver / defensive back, with the big trade with the Cleveland Browns. Number 3, Abdul Carter. Now we're back to chalk. Number 4, Will Campbell, smart pick from the Patriots. The early QB Development Bureau, the early QB DB. Our institution feel very happy with that. Never going to see that type of protection for Drake May again that he saw in 2024, hopefully. 5, the aforementioned Mason Graham, defensive lineman, to the Browns. 6, Ashton Genty to the Raiders. 7, Armon Membu, again, responsible actions from the Jets. Very concerning, very uncomfortable, but still praiseworthy. 8, Teteroa McMillan to the Panthers. 9, the Saints take Kelvin Banks Jr., very good in pass protection. I think he gets a little overextended in the run game, but super talented. 10, Colston Loveland to the Bears. Love that. My tight end 1, not your tight end 1, Phil.
My tight end 2.
49ers take Michael Williams off the edge, a power rusher with inside-outside flexibility. The Cowboys, Tyler Booker, getting some big, nasty at offensive guard at 12. 13, the Kenneth Grant defensive tackle pick for the Dolphins. Tyler Warren going 14 to the Colts. They didn't even have to move. Falcons.
He doesn't have to change his number either. Dallas Clark.
Pass rusher off the edge. 16, Walter Nolan. We touched on that. Bengals take Shamar Stewart off the edge. All traits, no production for Shamar Stewart.
And that's the thing. They're risking losing Trey Hendrickson and his 17.5 sacks, who still demanded a trade. Not a like-for-like swap, because there's a lot of refining that needs to get done with Shamar Stewart. I mean, Louis Riddick was very fair in his criticism. He just all the traits, but no plan.
So that was the Bengals at 17. I've gone off here, but I'm going to go with 18. That was not the Buccaneers. 18 was the Seattle Seahawks. They took Gray Zabel, interior offensive line, help desperately needed for Sam Darnold. I'm going to go off the dome here, Phil. All right, 19. That's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking who everybody loves, Emeka Ibuka, unimpeachable character there. The Vikings are just about to go on the clock. 20, of course, would be Jahdae Barron for your Denver Broncos. 21 was the Steelers passing on Shedeur Sanders and going with Derek Harmon. 22 was the LA Chargers. We talked about O'Marion Hampton coming off the board, a little power rushing there. 23, Matthew Golden, Green Bay Packers, took a wide receiver in the first round. How'd I go for those final 7 picks off the top? Hey,
pretty good.
I didn't think I still had it. There's
pretty darn
and we have
impressive.
a trade. And we have
and
a trade.
We have a pick. Interior offensive line is going Donovan Jackson, Ohio State, going to Minnesota.
And he's got a little of both. He's got a little inside-outside versatility, but more important, and I don't mind that for
position of need for the Vikings.
We have a trade. The New York Giants are on the clock.
There it is.
The New York Giants are on the clock. This has to be quarterback. Are we going to see Shedeur in prime time? In Prime City? Sorry, are we going to see Shedeur Sanders taking the next era of prime time to the Big Apple, the primetime city?
So they're giving up pick 30. The Giants are giving up 34, 99, and a third rounder next year to move up.
If you get 25. Your guy, that is so well worth it. That is so well worth it if you get your guy.
But who is it? Is it Jackson Dart or is it Shedeur Sanders?
Make your pick now, Phil. Let's not tip it. Who are you taking?
Jackson Dart.
I think you're right.
I think the Giants.
I think the Giants will take Shedeur. I think you're right. I think it's Jackson Dart. But for lols, give me Sanders. I'm going to do, while that's happening, I'm going to do some quick updates on the big board and make sure.
I got to take some notes. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you're going to take some notes right now. Well, we're going to get to some.
I've been doing this the whole time. That's why my mic goes out.
Your mic is lovely, and you're doing a phenomenal job. Look, I think as we look here,
I got the pen on the ear like a journalist, and I got a pen in my hand because
we got 2 quarterbacks that stick. I don't think this is a Tyler Shuck pick. That would seem a little early for my taste. But what we do get, let's just break down what the options are here, because when you're talking about Jackson Dart, I think there's questions about the offense coming from that Lane Kiffin offense. But the big arm, it's a lovely looking throwing action. Certainly has mobility. One of the more, if we're talking mobility between as a runner,
we got video in Jackson Dart's house, and he's hugging friends and family.
Okay, well I think we know where this one is going. We're going to see Jackson Dart come off the board here. We believe we're not trying to do tipping picks, but if we got video of that happening, I think we know which way this is going.
Hey, man.
So Jackson Dart. So what do we get? I think, for me, there's questions just about, how translatable that offense from Ole Miss is to the NFL. Mm-hmm. But from a tool standpoint, from mobility standpoint, so you talk about young quarterbacks wanting to have that running ability as a bit of an escape hatch as they become accustomed to the NFL. There's plenty to like about Jackson Dart. He was a riser. He was someone that, look, I don't think anybody lit up from the quarterback position, lit up the Senior Bowl process. Usually you might get 1 or 2 that have like MVP performances in practice, perhaps more important than the game, and really see their stock rise. I don't think anybody necessarily did that at the quarterback spot, but if Dart is this man coming off the board here, we're currently in an
and you had to get ahead of the Rams too. The Rams at 26, there was a thought that Matt Stafford almost being year to year, if you like somebody to take him, sit him behind somebody, that would be the Rams are a perfect candidate. Now, if you're the Giants, take your pick between Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. Here's the ball. Go have fun. See if you can add it. Giants have had a sneaky productive offseason beyond the quarterback position, but you can go show some improvement, save the jobs of Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, have the vote of confidence of the owner, and we have the quarterback of the future waiting in the wings. 5th-year option on him. You can burn a year with him. Waiting from behind. And now, and to, like you said, only give up your second, a third this year, a third next year to do it. And it's the back end third. It's 99. They're 102 picks in the first 3 rounds. That value makes all sorts of sense.
Look, when it comes to Dart, you think we're going to see some play action from this Brian Daboll offense, considering how much Daboll has shown that he can, create and craft offenses with quarterbacks that have certain leanings in the past. You think about that first season with Daniel Jones. Dart comes from a heavy play action offense. It wasn't the type of offense where you're doing the kind of full field reads and going through every single progression down to your 7th option who's on the sideline sipping a water bottle. That wasn't where he comes from, but it's going to be on him to develop. It's going to be part of that team part of the coaching staff and the coaching apparatus there, that this is their meal ticket for that, or that, how would we say it, that regime to to continue on. You imagine you get some veteran starts out of the likes of Russell Wilson. I don't think Jameis Winston. I think it's Russell Wilson at the front of the queue there, but you can get some veteran starts. And this is kind of the playbook that I've been talking about a little bit lately, is the playbook for the Giants. Okay, we get the veteran going for the first part of the season, and then to really try and hopefully allow an improved offensive line. Maybe they do some more investment the rest of the way in this draft class, but allow that to gel over the first half of the season. And is the roadmap, okay, the offensive lineman, we've tried again to put some more energy, some more assets into this, some more investment. It's gelled over the first half. Now we inject Jackson Dart with 6 to 8 weeks to go. And if he can come away with some solid looking progression, is that enough for what has generally been quite a patient Giants ownership? Not always the most willing for change over there in the Mara family running the Giants. Is that enough to buy the likes of Daboll and Joe Shane a bit of time?
Well, it's a team that averaged 15.9 points per game over the last 2 seasons. That's the fewest in the NFL by more than a point. First team in any offseason to ever add 2 150 touchdown quarterbacks. So you have a very experienced quarterback room. Most of the splashy pickups they had were on the defensive side, which is fine. They were one of 2 teams that didn't win a divisional game last year, them and the Raiders. So a sensible cost for them to move up. And I'll quickly address the Texans side of things. Texans' huge needs were receiver, offensive tackle, interior offensive line. Those are things that you can pick up second round, third round in this draft and get a lot of value. The arc of talent here is you're kind of first 10 to 15, and then it really flattens out for like the next 100 picks. A little bit indiscernible. For the Texans, I think it makes a ton of sense because now you get more bites at the apple tomorrow.
And there is the official pick there, just coming off the board now from Roger Goodell. It is Jackson Dart going to the New York Giants. We'll touch on him a little bit. But yeah, when you talk about the Texans bailing out, you think about interior offensive line, tackle, those options. You think that Booker is off the board. Kelvin Banks Jr. is off the board. Gray Zabel went off the board. We had Donovan Jackson just go off the board before them. And then the tackles at the top there with the likes of Membu, and obviously Will Campbell early. Those positions had been hit. There's depth, so why not move back? We have another trade. The Falcons moving back into the first round to the Rams spot at number 26. So I think clearly the Giants knew what they were doing in regards to the Rams. They thought Jackson Dart was headed potentially the Rams. If he was on the board at 26, he wasn't going to be on the board at 27. So they make the move up to 25, and the Rams make a corresponding move, and they bail out with the Falcons coming in. So we did come into this. This was the longest time that we went into the draft with everybody having their first round pick. And this is the closest we got to the draft in history without any first round picks being traded. And it has been trades of plenty, very much at the top. We know the blockbuster that happened early, and then we've seen this flurry later in the rounds, which is the one that we more predict. That was what we more predicted.
I am curious what the Falcons, and Kieran said, what are the Falcons doing here? I imagine they're going to go edge rusher if they like an Ezraku or Mike Green, because they have 30 fewer sacks than anybody in the last 5 years. I mean, this is, and you can go year by year. It's just they're always at or toward the bottom in sacks generated. My question is, we'll get the report in a second. What are they giving up? They had
I love
bottom
what the Falcons
5 draft capital laws after the first round. The Falcons only have 2 picks in the next 5 rounds.
But
so
I
what
love
did they give up to go from 46 here?
I loved what they did earlier. I love the Jalen Walker pick. That's exactly what they need. Jalen Walker, who comes in with a similar profile of off-ball linebacker, who really good rushing the passer, better coming forward than in coverage. Bit of Micah Parsons talk there. He's shorter than Micah Parsons. He's actually longer arm length and wingspan than Micah Parsons. So and he's the same weight. So while he's 6'1"-ish and Micah Parsons was close to 6'3", around 6'3", he actually has length, and you see that absolutely employed. So I really like that. So we'll see what the Falcons are doing.
The Falcons had 4 more picks. Falcons trade 46, 242, and a first next year.
A first next year. Let's have a look at that. We got the trade terms coming in right now. Out of Schefter, Falcons get first round pick, and they get a third this year. They give up 46. They give up their 7th this year, and next year's first. So they think they're going to the Super Bowl. I do want to get to some of these comments because I really want to give a shine to what's coming in here. So I'm just getting up to date here.
Let's say never change.
Leap
them picks.
Packers AAV, the average annual value for wide receivers. Golden is at 4.8 million. Watson 2.3. Jaden Reed 1.8. He's already the highest paid wide receiver on the team. Gridio, wait, so Green Bay is the Adelaide of the NFL. We'll unpack that later. And then a response, Adelaide is 10 times bigger. Gee, Green Bay has a population of like 100,000. Adelaide has over a million. We've got an Adelaide.
I've never been to like Cairns, but as I think of like, NBL teams or Aussie rules teams from like the smaller markets.
I just like that we're having a little Adelaide beef not beef, but
yeah. Why are we crapping on South Australia, man? I've never been. I'd love to go.
Here's the confession: I've never been to Adelaide.
So yeah, combined, we've been there.
We had some comments about the Rams being a great scenario for Sanders if that's the pick, but obviously it's not the pick with the Rams bailing out. What are the Falcons doing here? That is what we are talking about.
They must love one of these edge rushers.
Falcons. Kieran saying Falcons giving up next year's first is insane to me.
Yeah, that's a lot.
John Roberts ruined our draft a 5th straight year from memory. John's a Seahawks fan off the top of my. John, feel free to update me and correct me. But if so, I don't really understand that. But John, please correct me on your allegiances there. But we've got the pick coming in. The Atlanta Falcons are selecting James Pierce Jr., talented edge rusher, perhaps more straight line explosion. There were some football character questions, and that's the stuff that, look, I know I don't get to. I'm not in recruiting rooms. I'm not in interviews at the Combine. I'm not in interviews at Senior Bowl. I'm not doing 30 visits. But there are questions about how much he wanted it. Was he that apex level of in the building at first call? That stuff's really hard for us to judge. We can judge the tape where there was a ton of talent. A lot of people thought behind Abdul Carter, this is the second best pass rusher off the edge in the entire class. So in a very good class. So you think the Falcons know that they had an edge rushing issue, Phil? Getting Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. You think they're aware that their pass rush unit off the edge has been talked about the same way that we've talked about the Giants' offensive line for the past decade?
They must think this kid is unbelievable. They have to have like a top 15 grade on him.
Big grade.
To get when they, and again, they don't have a lot of picks after the first round. They were 27th in draft capital. They had 46, then 118, and that was it. So they get 101. So they're picking here at 26. They're not picking again till 101. They have 118. They only have 3 more picks: 101, 118, 218, and they don't have a first rounder next year now. Listen, if this is an 11-5 team behind Michael Penix, that's a little bit less costly, but it's been 7 straight years without the playoffs for the Falcons. If that's a top 15 pick next year, that's
a lot.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
But the Falcons don't think this. The Falcons think they're rolling in with the piece that they've got on the offensive line.
Every team in the NFC South does. Freaking the Saints are building their roster like they're
but the Saints have been doing that for 25 years now. All right. It is time. Let's get to it. Adam Schultz. I need to know Dallas's plan for wide receiver. Thoughts, loves. Possibly a trade for an established player. Can't be just a guy. Needs a genuine starter. I think there's plus starting potential still out there.
You have somebody at 44.
The problem is for Dallas is that they don't have the 4th round pick. They don't have the 4th round pick. They need a starting running back. They need a starting wide receiver 2. They need a starting cornerback. They probably need a starting nose tackle. They might need a starting linebacker. They also might need, we'll see about defensive end. They signed Fowler back. Marshawn Nealand is there, got a bit banged up, but there's promise there. Sam Williams, is he ever going to come on? So maybe they take it. It would be a shame not to tap into this edge class, given the talent it is, but it would be a shame to do a lot of things the Cowboys have done in the last couple of drafts. So what's their plan? One
man knows.
It certainly would. Well, I don't know if that one man knows, to be honest. It would certainly fit the Cowboys style to get a free agent their team was clamoring for 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, and get him now when the age has changed and the price has changed. So could this be a Keenan Allen destination? The thing I'd say about that is, with full respect to Keenan Allen, this Cowboys passing game has lacked speed and explosiveness for so long. Keenan Allen brings a lot of things to your wide receiver room and your offense. Speed and over-the-top explosiveness, nah, not it.
Yeah, Laz. I mean, you and I have talked. I'm not piling on, but just the waiting on the Dak Prescott deal, the waiting on the CD Lamb deal that ended up costing them about $8 million in average annual value for those, which is the cost of a Derrick Henry, somebody that they said they couldn't afford, and we know that's objectively
but
untrue.
hold on, Derrick Henry was going to cost you a full Trey Lance, except without the draft pick that you had to give up, which you could have spent on a running back.
And spending a 4th round pick on Jonathan Mingo.
Like, Phil, the chat is absolutely electric right now. Jason Kaiser, Odessa, Texas's own Jason Kaiser. I was enjoying this chat until the crippling depression of Dallas Cowboys chat. JK,
what's up,
stay
Facebook?
around. Stay around. The Tyler Booker pick, we'll get to it. It was not a bad pick. I'm feeling this could be a mid-round version of the Travis Frederick situation. That's how I'm telling myself. Adam Schultz, a substantive trade was Jerry's words. I'm waiting. Yeah, and I'm waiting for my six-pack to come back. Grillo, I'm going to be honest. I don't even watch this sport. I just like drafts. You know what? Everyone finds their way to the NFL in a different way, buddy. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the show. And somewhat seriously, Kieran, with Sanders dropping this bad, whoever advised Milroe to actually go to the draft needs stern words from his camp. Yeah, it was an interesting one. It was an interesting one to see Milroe go there. It felt like he could have been setting himself up for.
But I don't think so, because very few people thought Milroe was going in the first round. I think just because he's in the green room and going up there tomorrow and shaking the deputy commissioner's hand, I guess, tomorrow. I'm not bothered because the camera's not going to be in his face like it was with Ben Roethlisberger and Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Clausen and Brady Quinn and some of these quarterbacks who slipped further than we thought. Unless Milroe's there at like 60, I don't think there's going to be much attention paid to him.
The thing is,
all expenses paid, trip to Wisconsin. Why not?
Milroe's wearing a proper suit tonight. Like, it is detailed. He's got the JM on the lapel. It's all happening. He turned up in style, and that's
and you know what? He would have been wise to bring 2 suits.
I would like to talk one of the moments of the draft that we haven't touched on yet. I believe it was Kelvin Banks Jr.'s baby boy.
Projectile vomiting, yeah.
Projectile vomiting. The comments going around saying he is very well. His baby is ready for New Orleans. Not bad. Not bad website formerly known as Twitter.
Can he catch the beads?
Yes. Yeah, not bad website formerly known as Twitter. Good to know you still have moments there of your old self. So, look, Kelvin Banks was an interesting one. Look, let's do that.
I think Kelvin Banks is one of the again, we hate these buzzwords. I hate them. Higher floor players. I think he's going to be NFL for a decade. Don't even worry about it. Now, whether or not he's on a winning team, like Joe Thomas was in the NFL and a successful player for a long time, never saw the playoffs. So I think Kelvin Banks is going to be one of these guys who's around. It's just the Saints are so far from contention.
Yeah.
And they're lying to themselves, thinking that they're going to contend. They may not have a starting quarterback next year.
Absolutely. All right. While we're here, our new friend, Criteo, Mr. M. What's the story with the Sanders guy? Let's take a minute here, Phil. Look, Shedeur Sanders being Deion Sanders' son and being in the spotlight is a kind of a walking paradox in some ways. Yes, there's showmanship. Yes, there's podcasts. Yes, there's a big media brand, all that kind of stuff. There's all the attention that comes with it, the NIL deals, the big move to Colorado, and the changing of the culture and the scene there at the University of Colorado. Then there's the actual player, which is a pocket passer, not a crazy athlete with amazing breakaway running ability, doesn't have the biggest arm. There's a live arm, but it's not the biggest arm by any stretch of the imagination. Very accurate, very anticipatory. Tough as nails, will take a hit, stand and deliver, probably takes too many hits in the pocket, and is certainly not someone that's going to run around like he's not the runner that say like a Jackson Dart is, or certainly not Jalen Milroe. Tyler Shuck, who's the better runner there, Phil? Yeah. I think most people are going to go towards Shuck. So,
but I think our friend Griteo is just looking more for like the soap opera drama of all this, right?
But the drama is that
perhaps the greatest cover corner of all time and one of the greatest NFL character of all time, Deion Sanders, is his dad. So the assumption was Nepo baby.
Yep.
He comes in and he's a legitimate pro prospect at quarterback, but there are flaws. Just in his pre-draft process, he could have gone anywhere from 2 overall to round 2 And now, as we go, every pick that goes by, Ravens just having selected safety Malachi Starks from Georgia,
that was
it's
heavily
looking more
mocked.
and more likely like Shedeur Sanders is going to be round 2 unless the Browns trade up and get him. Now, the captivating thing here is there was a lot of presumption that Sanders would either go to Las Vegas or New Orleans early in the first round. And then some of the betting markets here stateside started to move, had him going instead of 8.5, 8-9 overall, 21.5. Pittsburgh. He gets past Pittsburgh. And so all of the mile markers where Shedeur Sanders, again, son of the superstar, could have gone. Now it's looking like it's in a little bit of a free fall. And he's available for anybody, but is anybody keen to trade draft capital to get him? Now the Lions pick is in. It doesn't appear to be a trade, so we're running out of time. I think Washington's a real possibility. They need to get some more picks, and Cleveland just picked up a couple with that trade back with Jacksonville.
Correct.
So if Cleveland likes him, if they think he can throw the ball, that's where you get the mechanics of it. Doesn't have the strongest arm. Cleveland, cold, nasty weather. All of your opponents play outdoors, windy. We've seen quarterbacks go to Cleveland and struggle and then find greener pastures elsewhere. Baker Mayfield, when he gets in a more friendly throwing environment. So Shedeur Sanders, whilst the franchise may like him, is he built for that environment? I think there's real question about that.
I appreciate the breakdown there, especially as I updated our ticker, which has picks all through the Ravens pick now, as we are into minute 52 of our live stream. With hundreds of you joining us.
Malachi Starks, by the way, I think is a terrific fit for the Ravens. They led the NFL in points per game after week 11, I want to say it was, when they moved Kyle Hamilton to a high safety. You can bring Starks, you can line him up all over the place. I think Zach Orr is going to have a lot of fun with him with where he lines up Starks.
I think you can move him around the place, but I will say that I didn't love him in the one-on-one coverage side of things. I thought that's where he could you could get some windows on him a little bit. But I think as a more off the line safety operation and not asking him to go play sticky man-to-man coverage and live in someone's hip pocket, which he was asked to do at times because he was asked to do a lot at college level. But it's a very Ravensy pick and one that doesn't surprise me. I think this would be one of the picks that was most heavily mocked correctly.
Reputation, Georgia defensive players tend to do okay once they get to the NFL. Look no further than your Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, the Ravens. Where are we at with the clock right now? The Lions pick is in.
Lions pick is in. But
all right, do I get to try and convince Adam Schultz and JK? Hold on, before I do, Grateo, who clearly is a big AFL fan. Oh, I get it. They're holding off so someone can get the father-son pick off him. Very AFL niche areas there. AFL niche areas here. Kane Pittman, friend of ours, back over in the States. If you're watching this, I know you'll enjoy that.
He's not. He's working. He's live in studio.
No,
so
he's watching.
He's screen at ESPN.
He's watching the Brecky Show live stream while he's on there. But I know our Melbourne office will be very happy that we've just had a father-son nomination chat dropped in. But look, okay, should we do? The Lions pick has not come in just yet.
It's got to be edge rusher, right, Laz? Should we do this? I think Ezraku or Green.
Ezraku, Green. I mean, there's certainly some off the field stuff. There's some character stuff with Mike Green, which would be why he's sliding.
Ezraku, I have concern with Ezraku. If you run it right at him, you can get some push. He's a terrific pass rusher, very productive, but
he is. He doesn't make up for being undersized by being very fast and speedy, though. He's bendy. He's savvy. He'll hit you with the cross chops. He's got some nice arm overs. He'll try and break down, tight end blocks when they get sent at him before he gets after the edge of the offensive line. But yeah, against the run, it's a bit of a question. Power is the fact that he's undersized. He's long, but he's undersized, undersized and not fast as a pass rusher makes me just a little.
What about Oladejo, UCLA?
My guy.
Need to change the shade of blue.
My guy, Oladejo. I'd like Oladejo more. I have both those guys in the second round. I have Oladejo above Ezraku.
Yeah.
I think from a talent standpoint, Green jumps out here. When we think about the Detroit Lions, look, this is a very complete roster.
Well, except for one position. Aiden Hutchinson led the team in sacks.
Yes.
He played 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
So he played 5 of the 17, and he had more sacks than anybody.
You got the right part of the team, but you did not get the right. You got the right room, just not on the edge. We have big, big Tyreek Williams out of he's out of the Ohio State University. You want some stoutness in the middle of your defensive line. You want a guy that is just going to wreck shop and clog up your run game.
Bite some kneecaps.
Yeah, he'll bite. Well, that's the thing with him because he's two gapping. It's not 2 kneecaps. He bites 4 for the price of 2. Which, if you do the math,
buffet of kneecaps.
The price of 1. Tyreek Williams. I mean, this. You talk about fitting culture, fitting style, fitting the Dan Campbell mantra. 100%. Tyreek Williams is big nasty. And it's not like he's not, as I've heard it referred to, he's not a trash can full of dirt. Like, he moves. He has some athleticism to get up the field. But if he can get that pressure and get moving, he can push the pocket. And if he gets a gap, this is not someone who's immobile, but the strength of this man's game is the power that he plays with, clogging up the run, clogging up the middle of the defensive line.
I think there were some teams picking 10 to 12 to 15 picks in tomorrow who are really hoping that Tyreek Williams will be available for them.
Absolutely. I think when we did one of our either or situations, I had him coming off the board. I think it was a Falcons situation, so around the low 40s.
Yeah.
Where he might have been coming off the board, but no, sir. He slides into the back end.
Falcons at 46 tomorrow.
Now, not anymore. Okay, let's have a look at the Commanders. One of the most interesting teams. So we've got to the Commanders. Could they be looking for a receiver here? And is there a receiver? I mean, they need more after Terry McLaurin. Ibuka's off the board.
Yeah.
Kett's off the board. Travis Hunter's off the board. Matthew Golden's off the board.
Luther Burden.
The talent for me is there.
Yeah.
The stop-start quickness. I think I see him playing faster than a 4.41. I think he tracks well. Yes, there was a lot of touches by design, a lot of manufactured touches, but I still think you see on tape, you do still you see the real receiver stuff.
Yeah.
You can move him across. I enjoyed the foot quickness. I think he can he can work the short part of the field, which we saw plenty with those designer touches, but I saw some slot fades and some work off the line of scrimmage to get deep. He's a guy that I'm going for. He's one who's getting hit with the not an alpha, not how much dog does he play with, all those cliches. He's not a flutter of the line guy. That's what some of the murmurs that you get coming out with, which is really tough for us to judge. But from on tape, I'm going for the guy. I haven't heard anything that he's a bad guy character wise.
If I'm Adam Peters, Commander's second-year GM, I'm picking up the phone to Andrew Berry and seeing how bad he wants Shedeur Sanders' 33, 36, 50-year option. Mm-hmm. Because as the Commanders, they're 31st in draft capital. They only have 4 more picks after this one. If you can add one in the middle rounds, this team took significant strides.
Okay, I've got one. Hold on.
Made a run to the NFC Championship game. What about Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky?
What about Josh Simmons and Josh Connolly?
Yeah.
What about either of those guys playing tackle for you? Because I know it was better than expected for the Washington Commanders with the offensive line, but it wasn't world beating. And they could certainly use some more. They could certainly use some more investment there. I'm just having a look.
I think they need to be greater at corner, where there are options here. If you again, Siobhan Revelle. Injury concern, Will Johnson injury concern.
You got Tunsil over at left tackle, but and Brandon Coleman was a decent success story. But could you look at Connolly as more of a pure left tackle? Could you look at Simmons there? They have inside. They have Allegretti, Tyler Biadasz, Sam Cosmi. I think maybe for them it would be someone with maybe a little more inside flexibility. Because when you're looking at the inside guys, Donovan Jackson coming off the board might have been a fit there, and then from a guard standpoint. There is that dip after Booker and Banks, the pure guards. Well, some people think Banks can hang a tackle.
I go corner. The one corner they drafted in DC in the last 15 years.
So we think
Forbes was cut this past November.
So Maxwell Hairston, we think the slide for Will Johnson continues.
If teams are this concerned, Hairston's there. We know he can fly. We know he can.
Yeah. Then you're getting into Trey Amos territory.
Or even the other
Benjamin. My next best cornerback, regardless of injury. Well, maybe that's easy to say. Even with the injury, I love Siobhan Revelle.
Siobhan Revelle, I know you do.
And if we're talking knees here, if everyone's got a knee, him and Will, and Will Johnson, I'm happy taking Revelle there. And that, I mean, that'd continue my form of, I know they add Deebo Samuel at wide receiver, but I'd still be looking at wide receiver, to be honest. Like, I know that's the graphic that's up on right now. I know they added wide receiver, but
no, they do need wide receiver. And that's my case for if they were able to trading back 4 picks, maybe you get a round 3 or round 4 from Cleveland. You can take a receiver flyer there. There's going to be somebody available at 61, a receiver, but that might be after the run of your Jack Bech and your Jalen Noel and your Jaden Royals and the guys that are going to go in that window. I think now is the time you pick a corner.
Yeah.
Mike Green doesn't look like he's happy, so I don't think it's him, though. Edge rusher.
They have Zach Ertz, right? But after Zach Ertz, what's life look like? Could this be here we go.
Elijah Arroyo?
Mason Taylor?
I think you got to go corner.
Josh Connolly Jr.
Okay.
So it is the tackle. This guy projects like this is more of your left tackle offering here. This is a guy that like there's a lot of dual. We've seen a lot of players who have I've had people telling me, 4 position availability, 5 position flexibility potentially. Connolly is more of that offensive tackle. The foot quickness is lovely. The athleticism, the fluidity, his pass protection stuff. He's not the strongest tackle. So you hope that maybe he's got the David Bakhtiari career, who was a left tackle prospect. Didn't go in the first round. Bakhtiari is a day 3 pick from memory, but wasn't seen as overly strong at left tackle or at the tackle spot, but had an obviously fantastic career.
Yeah.
Is this a guy that you do have? Unless are you looking at Brandon Coleman on the right side?
Approved, Loss.
It's approved, but how are you playing this with Tunsil, with Coleman, and now is Coleman being shifted somewhere, and you're looking at Connolly on the right edge? Like how are we projecting this for? I love investing in offensive line, but I don't see Connolly as a guy that's going to go in and go play guard.
Yeah, well, Connerly's played like 8 snaps his whole career away from left tackle.
Yes.
So
look, never going to knock a team for drafting a good offensive tackle prospect.
I mean,
it's interesting to see how it plays out.
If you think you can transition him to guard, then the left side of your line is Tunsil and Connerly. That's a hell of a wall for James Daniels' backside. But there's technique you got to figure out there.
I mean, if 6'5", 311 for Josh Connolly, I struggle to see the inside projection, but maybe it's the Coleman conversation that we're having. Even though I think he had some promise, and I think there were some moments there last season where people felt good, but certainly not so much that if you've got a first round grade, or even a high second round grade as we're getting to this part of the draft, that Connolly is a guy that comes off the board. Okay, Now while we're on the NFC East, I'll have the moment now. Kieran, don't Commanders have Cosme as well. My bias is showing, but Sanders lasting 35 and giving us a chance to trade down would be nice. This is from Kieran, Tennessee Titans man. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about. I'll talk about Tyler Booker quickly. Cowboys pick at 12. Everyone was linking them to Ted McMillan. Some people thought maybe Kelvin Banks if he was on the board. I was hoping for Jahdae Barron, who went obviously to your Denver Broncos. But for Tyler Booker, look, very, very stout, solid. You're hearing overwhelming power, really consistent technique, smart, good football character, accountable, leader in the locker room, tough as nails, a pro who's had his eyes on the NFL for a long time, and clearly very goal-oriented and gets, really strong reviews from the coaches and those within the building. But not the most flashy athlete, not pitter-patter, light-footed. I don't think you mistake him for like the athlete that I think of someone like a Cam Jurgens and how he was projected as an interior offense flame coming out. But for me, the hope for the Cowboys is this is a mid-round version of the Travis Frederick pick. It's not sexy at the time. Some people might think it's half a round early, but he was the number one guard on a lot of people's board. You lost Zach Martin. And there's some questions about leadership in that room because Tyler Guyton, how applied, consistent and focused was he during his rookie year? I think that's a fair question to ask. There's been a vacuum there. Tyler Smith is a fantastic player, but you've also got questions with Terrence Steele and clearly not a meshing with previous coaching staff. So, and Cooper Beebe is a young center. So now you come in with a player that, yeah, he's a rookie, but comes in with highly commendable football character. It's a solid, if not spectacular pick, but just like the Travis Frederick pick, it can be not sexy on the day and turn into be quite sexy down the track. And looking, if you want to establish a harder-nosed way of playing football under Brian Schottenheimer, and you have an interior offensive line of Tyler Smith, hopefully a maturing Cooper Beebe, and a Tyler Booker, I can see a game plan coming into focus there, even if it's not as shiny as Ted McMillan coming off the board.
Yeah, and I think the big needs for the Cowboys, it's not like interior offensive line wasn't one. You touched on it before. Perhaps linebacker, but really what? Corner, receiver, running back? And
yeah.
And you got 44 and 76, so the real guys you think are likely to make an NFL roster, and then you're waiting till the 5th round where things start to get a little more uncertain, just with the caliber of players who tend to be picked there. Sometimes you get superstars, but far more difficult to find. So now we have 2 spots left. Running backs and wide receivers will be available there. Corners as well. My friend Quincy Riley, likely from Louisville. You could maybe get him in the 2nd. I don't think he's going to be around at 76. The Bills pick is in. We have 3 picks left here in the 1st round. Laz, I can just feel it coming.
Yeah.
That son of a gun, Howie Roseman, at 32, is going to find a way to get the Browns to trade up and just add some draft capital at no cost whatsoever.
Oh, I could see that absolutely going. A little Howie cookery to end.
Yeah.
I think a name to watch. A name to watch for the Kansas City Chiefs at the running back spot potentially. Perhaps we would be looking at one. My running back too, Travion Henderson, coming off the board there would be.
What about Mason Taylor?
Mason Taylor is another one there. If they look at
Travis Kelce looked old for stretches.
Or is that a Josh Simmons spot? But the Bills are on the clock first. Don't need to tell Bills fans that they're picking before the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're a little aware of that over the years.
But adjacent to, or for a 4th time.
But we wait to see what the Buffalo Bills do and how they're going to retool here. And we're into this part of the draft that was talked about where it flattens out. And there we go. There's the name, Maxwell Hairston, cornerback. That makes a ton of sense for the Bills, right? They've been in a
I said the same thing about Kaiir Elam a few years ago.
Yeah.
Didn't pan out. And now
Kaiir Elam is now a Dallas Cowboy.
Where did he go? Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah, he's Maxwell Hairston. Lots of speed. He grabbed headlines with some of the speed that he put down there. There's some refinement to come with a defensive back like Maxwell Hairston, but this is the range we thought he could come off the board. There's plenty of developmental upside there. And
I was clamoring for him to go the last pick to Washington.
They are a team that has been in transition in their secondary for a time now, where they've moved out a previous iteration. In saying that, I'm not wrong that whilst they are, and we have a trade. The Kansas City Chiefs have traded the pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have come up from 32 to 31. Phil, color me confused. Would you like to prognosticate about what you saw there?
I got nothing for you, buddy.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So perhaps that's not we're taking a guy you're going to take. Did the Kansas City Chiefs feel that someone was going to jump them? And so rather jump them and go to did the Philadelphia Eagles feel like someone was going to jump them to the Kansas City Chiefs? So they took the took the onus and moved up themselves.
Concerned about Dallas Goedert's health. Maybe they're thinking tight end.
Could very well.
A number of edge rushers we've talked about. Mike Green. We saw Jalen Carter with some off-field concern. Goes to Philly, is a wrecker just because of the structure, the strong structure of that franchise. Maybe they think that Mike Green's, off-field concerns aren't as much of an issue. Maybe they love Donovan Ezeraku. Oladejo is an option. Schwarzenegger could go there. But
so we are an hour into this thing, Phil. An hour into our stream, and it is still heating up. We still have trades aplenty. So, I mean, we got Grateo surprised that Mike Green is still on the board. I think that one comes down to character concerns. We're thinking about the Philadelphia Eagles. They could help. They could use help in the secondary. They could certainly replenish. They could, not the outside of the secondary, obviously with the defensive backs. They add the corners that they added there with DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, but they could add on the edge.
2 of the top 4 in defensive rookie of the year last year.
Yeah, but I think you could still upgrade other pieces of that secondary. I think the edge and the interior. Look, they lost Josh Sweat. They lost Milton Williams, so it would make sense to look at that spot. Running back, certainly not an issue. Wide receiver, not an issue. Offensive line is looking in pretty good shape. But tight end, that's a fair spot to bring up. This could absolutely be a pick there. Whether they thought someone was going to jump them and the Chiefs were going to back out, so they got in there themselves, or maybe they did convince the Chiefs that, hey, we know you guys might be going tight end, but let's take the guesswork out of it. How about we come up to you guys and what's the pick swap here? I'm sure we've got it coming in here.
Darius Alexander's an option.
The trade is Kansas City traded pick 31 in exchange for 32, and they gave up a 5th rounder, pick 164. So yeah, it's just a little insurance play perhaps to get the guy that they had.
And for the Chiefs, they don't have any picks between 133 and 226. They don't have a 5th or a 6th rounder.
Jason Kaiser, let's just all concede this. Insert Georgia Bulldog to Pennsylvania. So who would our next Georgia Bulldog be, Phil? Who would the next Georgia Bulldog
Jared
be?
Wilson, center.
I think they're right with Cam Jurgens. They just gave him a bucket load of cash.
Yeah.
We're a little light.
Tate Ratledge, guard.
Tate Ratledge. Hold on one second. Something's coming to mind here. No. We've got our linebackers are from Alabama, UCLA, Oklahoma, Oregon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Tyrion Ingrams-Dawkins, edge.
A little early?
It'd be a lot early. If we're really keeping it to Georgia players.
Yeah. I mean, I love the suggestion, but I don't know that it's going to be reality.
I think it's going to be one of the edge rushers, Mike Green perhaps, or
Jihad
Mason
Campbell
Taylor.
at linebacker.
I think it's Mason Taylor or one of the edge rushers, Mike Green, Ezeraku.
I mean, look, this, as you mentioned,
Darius Alexander's an option too. He played in college with Quinyon Mitchell. They both went to Toledo.
This is a football program that prides itself on providing culture, and that seems really soft, but also player development. That's something they absolutely put at primacy of their football program, player development, and that includes on-field stuff, and obviously that includes some of the work that they've done with guys that have come in with question marks. We saw the Jalen Carter slide that you touched on earlier. So could that be what we're looking at? I guess while we're sitting here in ad break here, Phil, with 2 picks to go in the first round, what's been the biggest? Let's take out the big trade at the top, the trade to 20, the trade from 5 to 2. But what's been the biggest surprise for you on the day? What is it? A slide? Is it a move that was made by a particular team? What jumps out to you?
I have, just because I've been working the last few days, we've been aware of the potential of a Shedeur Sanders slide. I'm a little surprised nobody's jumped back into the first to get him. There is, I guess, one more pick for which a team could. Cleveland could swap with Kansas City. Because typically you want to get that 5th-year option. Recently, the Titans declined it with Will Levis, and he's not the guy anyway. And then Drew Brees is the only other quarterback in the common draft era to be taken in the first 2 picks of the second round. Correct. But I would say the one surprise, Tampa not going defense with needs at linebacker, safety, corner, edge rusher, a fine wide receiver 1-2 combo. A little bit of a surprise they got Chris Godwin back, unless there's some in-house injury concern for Chris Godwin. That's something with that dislocated ankle that he suffered on Monday Night Football. I mean, if there's concern that he's going to get back to full health, or if they think this is a swan song for Mike Evans, then Emeka Egbuka makes all sorts of sense. But for a team that has now won 4 straight divisional titles with so many glaring needs on defense, being bottom 4 in the NFL in yards per game allowed, I think the more responsible play for them would have been a player at any level of their defense. With those guys available on the board, they opted not to.
I think I'm going to go with a chalk answer here. The Green Bay Packers taking the wide receiver. I didn't I didn't see it happening just because of the range that they were in. I thought they were going to. I thought some of their options might have been picked off before because there was a little run of, as we saw, where Tet McMillan came off the board. There was that little gauntlet there of receivers, and there were some teams throughout that teen run there that certainly could have added and certainly did. We just got finished talking about one, added some talent. So that one did surprise me just a little bit. I applaud some of the early QB protection. I think maybe this is being cynical, man, but maybe my big surprise is the noiseless competency of the Jets operation in their first round.
Well, again, new GM, new head coach, friend and colleague Mike Tannenbaum was intimately involved with that decision. He was flying down to Florida, meeting with Woody Johnson, conducted all the interviews. I trust Mike. He was a former GM and executive VP of football ops for the Jets and Dolphins. So him being behind that hiring process, it doesn't surprise me that Aaron Glenn, first-year head coach, new GM with the Jets, they made an adult decision.
They did. Now, speaking of adult decisions, Philadelphia Eagles pick.
By the way, Roger Goodell, suit and sneakers.
I'm going to leave that to you. It is Jihad Campbell who comes off the board. So the linebacker room just got a little more stout. That is an area that they've addressed in certain ways, and they've had investment guys like Nakobe Dean and health's been an issue there, and they've had other names come in and contribute. But the Zach Bourne,
you go back to Jalen Hurts. The last 9 first and second round picks for them all started in Super Bowl 59. The first 2 guys they took last year finished top 4 in Defensive Rookie of the Year. Their eval process is just working.
I think this is a guy that was ranked a lot higher. And again, we talk about the Eagles always rank really well in the draft grades because their picks outweigh the expectation of where the picks were going to go. But look, you got a multi-year starter out of Alabama, very prototypical at 6'3", what is he, 230, 240 pounds, kind of in that range there. He's someone who a lot of people might have thought was going to go in the middle of the first round. He goes to the second last pick of the first round, addresses a position need. The Zach Bourne revival was awesome last year. Now you're adding to that as well. And there's one thing that Philadelphia Eagles, they don't rest on success. They don't rest on, hey, we're loaded at this position. I'm not saying they're loaded at linebacker, but hey, we had success at this position. Let's move somewhere else. Hey, we had success at this position. Let's add to that. Let's build on top of that. Let's invest in our investments.
Laz, quick question for you. You're well aware, NFC East, 20 straight years with no repeat champs. Does that come to an end this year? Do you tip the Eagles to win, or do you think the Commanders are going to catch them?
Can I answer after the draft? I with the retention, with the first round pick they just made there, which is very, very enjoyable. I hesitate to say that someone's catching the Philadelphia Eagles. There's only one team that can do it. I think there's beyond daylight between second and third in the division right now. But no, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles repeating as NFC East champions.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
It just feels different this year, and it's no disrespect to Washington. Washington could go 12-5, and I wouldn't bat an eye. That franchise is headed in the right direction. Yeah, we see the sophomore regression oftentimes. Teams have a year of tape against quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels' processing speed, his gifts with his arm and his legs, special player. It's just the Eagles are such a tidy operation. They have some departures they got to address, but they just addressed one. As long as that torn labrum is okay in the next 4 months. They didn't go Georgia, but they went SEC. And Jihad Campbell is a guy who, if not for the injury concern, might have gone top 15.
Absolutely. And not unsurprising that there can be beat up injury concerns when it comes to players coming out of Alabama. I don't mean beat up as in they're made up, as in they play very physical football. They have for a long time. That's absolute leftover from the Nick Saban regime.
That is now the 11th first-round trade by Howie Roseman since he got control of the draft process back in 2015. It was already the most in the NFL coming in. Now 11 first-round trades in 11 drafts. This is how we do it.
Howie has pick 64, 96, 134 to play with.
And then 3 fifth-rounders, nothing
three
after that.
fifth-rounders after giving up 164. But no worry, he already had 161, 165, and 168 as well. But you think about some of the areas
4 and 8, and then he just gets to leave Green Bay.
The areas that we talked about for the Eagles that they could look to improve on, or that look to maybe supplement with Josh Sweat going, okay, there's going to be talented edge rushers on day 2. Interior defensive line with Milton Williams going, okay, this is a really good interior defensive line, defensive tackle class. Whether you're into nose tackles or 3 techniques, there's going to be talent there. The corner, like if they want to add another DB, it's not an overly strong safety class, but there's a couple of very athletic safeties still out there.
Nick Emenwari.
And then
he's not making it to 64.
No, he's not making it to 64, but who knows where you're ever going to find those guys picking. But there's our man out of the University of Texas as well. Another athletic safety whose name I know we've got Kevin Winston Jr., one of yours out of Penn State.
Penn State, yeah.
I know Andrew Makuba has that's out of Texas, has a lot of fans. So there's some interesting.
I like Jalen Reed too. I know he's further down most boards. I barrack for Penn State. I watch a lot of Penn State.
You do. But there's a lot of it. I mean, there's a lot of interesting DBs as well out there. Azariah Thomas is on the board. Trey Amos is on the board. Ravel is on the board. Noel Williams. You've got, I know there's Benjamin Morris fans out there. The day 2 and potentially leaking into day 3 a little bit, defensive backs out there. So I think the draft sets up well that they go ahead and take purely the best grade that they have on the board. Although I will say injury-prone linebacker, off-ball linebacker might be one of the
Kieran shouting out Xavier Watts, not incorrectly.
But
for old Notre Dame.
The Chiefs pick is in with a 37 pick. Roger Goodell is letting us know that the Kansas City Chiefs. Josh Simmons. There it is, Josh Simmons. You let the board come to you. I love that pick for Kansas City. Josh Simmons might be the best tackling. He might be the best tackler in this class. He got injured. It's a patellar injury. The word has been very strong about that injury, but his tape is fantastic. This is a guy that I think we were doing talking about up there wrestling with Will Campbell and Amon Membu and deep inside the top 5, top 10 of this draft had it not been for the injury. It sounds like he's going to be able to contribute and play and be ready to go for this season. The medical reports are good. I know patella scares people off. It's one of those injuries that kind of, I think it outlasted the big long-term fear that injuries like an ACL, not to minimize it, but Josh Simmons is a true tackle. You're seeing some of the highlights on the draft broadcast right now on ESPN. But what we're seeing there from the Kansas City Chiefs is an obvious need. They made a pick. They invested last year. Didn't really come off with the high investment. Kingsley Suamatea. We'll see how that goes developmentally. But Simmons potentially to fix that left tackle spot that's been a little bit achy breaky for them over the past couple of years. I love it.
First style, man. And Patrick Mahomes' career high in sacks taken. Patrick Mahomes' career low in pass yards per game. Yeah. Nonetheless, the Eagles or the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl where the Eagles destroyed them.
Wouldn't be stunned if we see the last 2 picks in this draft that we just saw then running at each other during their rookie years at some point, potentially in the postseason. Who knows, maybe in the Super Bowl. But Jihad Campbell can be deployed rushing off the edge a little bit.
In a repeat pairing. We haven't seen that since Cowboys, Bills in the early 90s. But you mentioned it with Simmons. I think it bears repeating. He had 800 snaps at right tackle as a sophomore, I want to say, and then switched over to left tackle full time. So whilst he's a left tackle at Ohio State, he is comfortable. He has a lot of experience, heaps of experience playing on that other side. And where Kansas City spent a lot of last year mixing and matching, even kicking out Joe Thuney, an all-pro guard to tackle to try and just help that left tackle spot. The Chiefs get somebody who they can play on either side of the O-line wherever the needs may take them.
Absolutely. Now we do finish today. I feel should we put about 5 minutes on the clock to wrap this thing all up? Yeah. Kieran, watching the back end of the draft, realizing the rich to get richer, loving what the Ravens, Eagles, Chiefs all get talent lower than they should be. Look, I think it was a strong finish from some of those top end draft picks. Shedeur Sanders still on the board.
Dude, you know who wins? ESPN programming, because that's going to be your lead topic on SportsCenter, NFL Live, I'm hosting ESPN Bet tomorrow. That's going to be in our A block. Where does Shedeur Sanders go? It adds to intrigue. You have a face of tomorrow's intrigue.
Absolutely. Shedeur Sanders still on the board there. Tyler Shock still on the board. I think as a look at some of the names to keep an eye on if you're looking out there and getting, whether you're happy with how today went or you want hope renewed for day 2. I think if you're looking down this class, just looking at some of the names to keep an eye on, obviously Luther Burden jumps out to me before we get into a next tier of wide receivers. My next wide receiver after him is probably Jalen Royals. I really love Jalen Royals. The tight ends, Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo. Terrence Ferguson tested really, really well.
Yeah.
The combine, he's going to jump out.
Will Johnson, Donovan Ezeraku, Mike Green, Darius Alexander, Nick Emenwari.
I'm not a big Aronte Ursary guy, but you do start getting into, you start to slip down into another. I think there's a bit of a drop off at the tackle spot there. I think as there was at the guards, Jared Wilson, very interesting center if you're looking at the offensive line. And the edge rushers are going to carry in. Mike Green, we mentioned, is still on the board. Donovan Ezeraku. You've got Jordan Birch, Landon Jackson. You've got the Ohio State guys. The pairing there, I was watching some of their tape, just a little extra tape to finish late last night. And then tomorrow's a big defensive tackle day as well. The likes of Alfred Collins, TJ Sanders. You got Alexander out of Toledo, who you mentioned before. Another Shamar out of Texas A&M. I think that's I wondered before if there's been an offensive line with 3 Tylers on it before. Have we had 2 Shamars out of the same college in the same position group?
I don't think so.
No.
Laz, quickly, question for you.
Go.
A couple years ago, we sat here on this very show.
Did we?
I was in this very same pretend studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State didn't even need to move house all that far. Didn't need to buy a plane ticket. He could just drive from State College to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And then first pick of the second round, Joey Porter Jr., cornerback, Penn State, goes to the Steelers. Huzzah! Shedeur Sanders, Browns, 33 overall? Question mark.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What is the first pick tomorrow? What is the first pick?
I just asked you that question.
Yeah. So it will be Shedeur Sanders? I don't think so. I think if the Cleveland Browns wanted to jump up and get their guy, I think we would have seen them do that with the assets they've accumulated. Yeah. I don't think it will be. And I'm also not sure that they stand and pick at the spots that they're in. I think they may move back again and acquire more assets, because the reality for the Cleveland Browns is, with where they've spent their cash and their cap and locked themselves in, let's call it, other parts of the roster, they need as many cheap, affordable, talented assets as possible. Best way to do that is accumulate those day 2 picks, which they've done a bit of today, and I think they can do tomorrow. But no, I don't think it's Shedeur at 33 tomorrow. I think could it be could the Pittsburgh Steelers come up? I need to check their draft capital, but which quarterback needy team could it be that makes a move up into the
that's the conversation. It is Steelers, who don't pick again until 83. So
yes, so that's a problem. So that's not them.
Unless they give up a King's ransom next year. Saints,
which is not their style.
40.
Interesting.
That's 40 to 33 is doable. But Cleveland themselves needs a quarterback.
They do.
If they don't like him, what do they take? Tyler Shuck at 36?
Well, which veteran quarterback has ties to their head coach Kevin Stefanski and could be dealt any day?
Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could it be Kirk Cousins? Could you and me?
Oh, I forgot to. Joe Judge. You know Joe Judge.
Yeah.
He's an assistant at Ole Miss. Now it's the dots are starting to connect. Jackson Dart going from Oxford. He and Brian Dable are like buddies going back 20 years.
I think you bringing up Joe Judge is a great way for us to finish this live stream today, Phil. We got a Joe Judge reference in there. I'm not sure if there was another NFL stream out there, NFL Draft Round 1 watch party that mentioned Joe Judge.
I don't know why I just thought of that. Joe Judge is an assistant at Ole Miss.
This is the dots are all connecting here. The dots are all connecting. The darts and the dots. See? The dots are connecting. There's a Boston accent coming through for you. Phil, This has been a lot of fun. This is crazy. To do this for like 4 hours over a whole first round would be absolutely nuts.
We did it for 80 minutes. That's pretty.
We did it for 80 minutes. It's a long one. It's time to land the starship.
And you were all, where are you? We start in 4 minutes.
I was a little.
You were like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. We miss each other. We're good friends.
We do. I just want to talk, man. All right.
No, but lads, we do miss each other, and I think we're gonna chat again soon. No?
Monday we're gonna recap everything for you. People, enjoy your weekend.
What time? What time Monday?
Monday at a time that we like to call 10 a.m. local.
10 a.m. local, Sydney, Melbourne time. What time is that in Adelaide?
I want to say 9:30.
9:30?
I want to say 9:30.
So.
Kieran, Brad, someone in there, please let me know.
I'm just trying to give the people some props for Adelaide caught us.
Thanks, Phil. The Joe Judge has hit my bingo board. There you go. I believe Brad is our local Adelaidean. So yes, 10 a.m. Monday. We'll be back to recap everything. Yes, it is half an hour behind. It's currently 1:22 p.m. in a fine state of South Australia.
10 a.m. Sydney, Melbourne, 9:30 Adelaide, 7 Perth, 8, 7. It's 8 p.m. by me, 8 p.m. by me Sunday night. But we will see you Monday morning. And Laz, what we're doing, recapping the totality of the draft. I asked you questions about next year. You said, hold on, there's more draft to come. I stand corrected. You are right. There's a whole lot more draft to come. You and I will break it down. We're going to give out draft grades, but forget this A, B, C.
No.
What the hell does it mean when Dallas gets a B minus? But we will tell you how these teams did in a Brecky show way. What does that mean? We're not really sure, but we're going to find out between now and Monday morning. We will see you at 10 a.m. For all of you tragics that spent 82 minutes with us, God bless you. Thank you for being amongst us. It's always good to be amongst friends. And before we go, one more time, Merry Christmas. We'll see you Monday morning.
Merry Christmas.